Okay, we'll take that with us loose and then leave it in plain train station. They want to know.
Oh, so tell me about when you met.
Okay, it starts being my story. I had been sort of going with somebody at college that was that I had kind of broken up with at that point.
This was what, 1950?
This was no, it was 40. Let's see, 47, 48. Must have been the fall of 1948, which was Percy's first year there. My second
at Westminster.
At Westminster, right. And he was a sophomore, and I was also a sophomore, but he was a transfer student, having been in the service just before that. And anyway, I belonged to the Beta Sigma Omicron sorority, which now no longer exists. But we had a dance coming up, and since I had just broken up with the guy I had been sort of going with, not seriously, anyway, I needed to find somebody to invite to the dance. And
Is
my
that
room.
what the sorority
That's the
sisters
way it did.
invited someone to your dance?
That's the way it worked. So I was talking to my roommate, Jean Martin, who was a music major. I was not. And she said, well, you know, there's this guy in my class. He's new this year, transferred in, and his name is Percy Hall, and he's real tall. And that was a plus for me because the guy I'd been going with before that was just my height or a tad shorter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew who he was because I had seen him on some. We had a retreat, a religious retreat of sorts from the. I don't remember the name of the organization. Anyway, we went to some place out in some camp, and he had been there too. Although don't know whether we'd ever talked or not. I can't remember that. Anyway, I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. So this one day, he was sitting in the library studying. Little did I know it was the only time in his college career he was ever in the library. It was just meant to be, I guess. And I sat down and I talked to him a little bit, and then I invited him to the dance. Okay, you want to take over from there?
Yeah, and I think I said yes.
You did, because we
I
did.
did. I was very surprised that she did ask me to the dance, and I felt honored or pleased. I guess honored isn't the right word.
Not hardly.
Happy about the invitation. I did know who she was, but I hardly knew her name because the retreat she had mentioned I was at too, and I think you played the piano at the
I did
at the retreat, and so
for Joe Hopkins, who had written a goofy song. I can't remember the reason for it, but we had teams or something, and our teams was called the Blue Boosters, and he wrote this song about this kind of pep song, if you will, called "We Are the Blue Boosters, Slick Chicks and Roosters, the best team of them all." I could still play it, but I will not sing it. Believe it or not, I could still play it. And so that's why I was playing the piano. And Joe
was my roommate at that time.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't married yet, and we lived in the barracks that were built for extra dormitories right after the war when guys were getting out of the service and they needed more dormitories.
Do you remember where they were on campus?
Well, I don't know how I can explain to you. They're not there anymore.
Yeah, well,
they were torn down. They were on the northeast corner of the campus.
kind of behind the science hall, down the hill from the old science hall. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
My sense of direction is not so great, so I'm not even going to attempt to locate them. But except they're not there anymore.
So, but they weren't like just a big room with bunks.
No, they were like separate little apartments.
They were like barracks.
Oh, that well, there was one that was made
like barracks, and they had separate apartments in them, and so.
You weren't actually roommates, were you? I thought you were a roommate with Ralph or Mark Gleason or something.
He was the proctor or something. He was in charge of.
Because he's a faculty member, he wouldn't have been a roommate with you.
Yeah,
there,
Another guy
though.
named Mark Gleason was a roommate for me. He's the one that taught me how to tap dance, which I have promptly forgotten.
Okay.
But
So anyway, you found my name out from Joe, right?
yeah, I found your name, and he told me that you were a worthy date.
Oh, so when you asked him, he didn't even know who you were?
Well, he kind of knew who I was, but he didn't know my name. He had to
didn't know
find
your
out my name, which has always been kind of a joke in the family that he didn't know my name, but I asked him out. But he went anyway, so I guess it was meant to be. And Joe's mother, of course, Joe's older than Perce, and his younger brother is about your age, wasn't he?
Yeah, a year
Thomas.
older.
But anyway, they knew Joe at least knew my dad, and his mother said that my father was the salt of the earth, which I don't think she said that at that point, but at some point she found out about that, and so then I guess he thought I was going to be all right. Anyway, it was only a party, for crying out loud.
Do you remember the party or the
No.
dance?
Not at all. I don't remember where it was.
Well, it was in College Hall.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I
Well,
remember
that's
that.
a place they used to have parties, so fraternities and other groups could rent it, I think. But it doesn't exist anymore either, I don't think.
No, I don't think
It
so.
had been a hotel at one time, I think, up in the corner in the main town, which isn't much of a town. But yeah, it was up there. I don't know. And after that, I didn't hear too much from him. This was probably October. In October, I don't know.
I didn't remember.
Anyway, maybe okay.
And
November
you
is
were
probably more
Dad
possible.
was studying music.
He
and
was a
you were-
music major, but I was not. But
were-
my roommate was, and I don't think 90% of the people who knew me realized I wasn't a music major, but I wasn't. I was a psychology major, for whatever that's worth.
But you were active.
But
in-
I was in the choir. I took organ lessons, so I was often over in the conservatory practicing, and it just, and then of course as things progressed, I was there a lot.
Yeah. The music majors conversed and sat on the front porch and steps of the old conservatory building. I
I
think
don't
that
think
was
it's gone.
torn down when
Was
you
that
were.
West Hall?
I don't know.
Yeah, West Hall.
Yeah.
Other.
That was there when I was there, but I think it's gone now.
I
or maybe it
think-
was
I
gone
don't
by
know.
the time I was there.
I
I've seen
have a feeling
pictures of
it's
it.
not there, but I can't remember. Maybe it burnt down.
I think it did. I think it did.
Other students frequented the Tub, the student union building, and played cards and drank pop, I guess, and everything. But the music majors kind of hung out on the front of the
Or in the winter inside, because it was cold. There was a little lounge inside too.
whole.
So that's why they all thought that's what I was, because
Oh,
I was
'cause you
there
hung
too.
out there? Uh-huh.
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't hang out. in
Our
the tub.
second date, it was probably before Christmas,
I don't remember.
or
You invited me to a fraternity party?
No, I took you to a movie.
Oh, I don't
I
remember.
don't remember what movie it was.
I have no recollection of that at this point in time. It was a long time ago, though. Quite a long time ago. Anyway, the year went along, and we dated more and more. And by the end of the year, we were pretty
Pretty
much.
serious.
Yeah, and it was kind of a tough summer because he went home and I went home, and our homes are far apart. And the way of communication then was letters,
Yeah.
real letters that went with stamps.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even phone each other. I mean, you just didn't do that.
What did you do in the summers then? Did you have jobs?
Yeah.
I worked in Laurel in the post office and the racetrack. The post office, I carried mail for every postal route in Laurel, different times when the carriers took time off.
Oh, yeah, you filled in.
The problem was I walked fast and carried them, and so I had an extra time, and they told me at the post office when I got back, don't you dare come back this early. These are timed routes. So I would I would go fast and then go home for an hour before I went back.
Why didn't they want you to go fast? Because you made the other guys look bad?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And then starting at 5 o'clock, I went to the racetrack. Laurel had 2 racetracks, sulky races. I can't remember the racetrack, but Laurel Raceway, it was one, and I don't remember what the other one was, but I sold hot dogs for the races.
This is horse races?
Yeah.
The horse races, sulky. They were pulling the horse with a carriage behind
Oh,
it
okay.
and so forth.
I don't know if they still do
remember
that
they
or
called
not.
it sulky. I don't know much about it. And it was a good paying job, and you were busy all the time, except when the race was going on.
Yeah.
As soon as the race was going on, everybody flew. I mean, everybody walked out from under the bleachers to see the races. But I made a lot of money working in the for those times, working the 2 jobs. And you went to summer camps or something,
Well,
didn't
yeah.
you?
Well, I was working in the United Presbyterian, pardon me, it was still that then, bookstore, because I guess I sort of had dibs on a job because my dad was in the administration of the church and was right there in that building in Pittsburgh. And I worked in the bookstore for a while, and then I don't know if it was that year or the next year. I think it was that year. They let me take the book displays, which they always sent to the various summer camps, conferences they were called then, I think, that were in the area. They'd send a bunch of books to sell, and little trinkets and stuff like that. And they packed them up and took me and set it all up, and I was in charge. And I could set my own hours, and I wasn't open all day or anything, but it would be like a couple hours in the afternoon, because the kids had activities and stuff in the morning. And so I had several hours in the day that I was to be there and run the bookstore, sell things and so forth. And the rest of the time I had free, and I could do whatever I wanted to at the places. And I can't exactly remember where all I went. I know I was in New Wilmington during the missionary conference, I believe, at least, if not that year, another year. And because I did this more than 1 year, and I was at Camp Lambeck and at someplace else.
Someplace on Erie.
Up on Lake Erie, yeah, that might have been the one. Anyway, it was, and someplace near Ligonier. It was, I didn't make a fortune, but I didn't matter because it was a kind of a fun job altogether. I like working, and I've always liked being around books.
Yeah, still are.
Still are. So that was a pretty neat summer job, and that's what I did. And
Another summer job you had was caravan.
well, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Traveled around the East Coast.
Yeah, that was like a service team thing, and I applied to do that the summer between my junior and senior years, and there was a group of young people, college age, from wherever the United Presbyterian Church was, that went there for training, and then they sent us out for 4 weeks to different places that had asked for services. Some of them wanted help with Vacation Bible School, some wanted help with surveying the neighborhood, or whatever. And they put me on the teams were 4 people. And I was on a team with 3 others, one of whom was a singer, which they did on purpose because I could play for him. And we were understood that we were to be in churches which wanted that to be done. But we ended up in one church that wanted a survey, and we spent 2 weeks going around knocking on doors to find out what people, and I didn't enjoy that at all. But the weeks that we were in churches that had Bible school, Vacation Bible School, or just used us for a church service or whatever, that was more enjoyable, and I felt like I was doing something good there, whereas surveys. And I was actually had the flu or something and was sick part of it 1 week. And I wish I could exactly remember. I'd have to look it up. We were in Brockton, Massachusetts. That's I don't know where it is. We were in Levittown on Long Island. I don't think that exists.
All over, huh?
And someplace else that I can't remember. We were one place 2 weeks, and then 2 places each 1 week. Englewood comes to mind, New Jersey. Anyway, it was a good experience. I did not enjoy the survey thing, and I didn't feel like I was doing anything very helpful. But the other things I felt pretty good about, and then we went back to New Concord again to sort of summarize the whole thing, and then I went home. So that was that summer. But I did work some that summer in the bookstore also when I wasn't doing this other thing.
So how long did you date before you were married?
Well,
We got married halfway through the senior
between semesters of our senior year.
semester of
So what's the ending?
The end. What's the
Condensed
ending?
version.
Condensed version. We decided he decided to go on to the University of Michigan and get a graduate degree, and
That was after you were.
That was at yeah. Well, yeah. It was immediately following our senior year graduation. In fact, as we graduated on Monday, and he had to be there on Friday, and we were going to get married that week, but somehow it didn't seem like a good idea, especially since they were starting to call back some of the veterans for the Korean War. And he was not in the, reserves. But it was still a little bit worrisome. Mm-hmm. And they never called married people at that time. And then all the confusion with the end of school and getting married and taking off and going up there and all that, we just decided to get married between semesters. And my mother and dad gulped a little bit and said, okay, and they did most of the arrangements and we worked it out. But there's a backside story to that, but we'll get into that some other time. That's enough for now. We were married in Pittsburgh, in the Crafton United Presbyterian Church. We had 3 ministers to get us hitched. Maybe that's why it lasted. But one was my dad, one was his dad, and one was the pastor of that church. Which was the one we attended. It was right around the corner from our house there. So there were.
My brother Reg was my best man, and Jack got there after the service was over. He got there for the reception. And the reception was
in the
a real meager reception compared to what receptions are.
It was the tradition of the day, however. It was just in the church basement, and we had very nice wedding cake and little sandwiches and cookies. I don't know if we had cookies or not, but anyway, just a little finger food, and then the cake and drink punch, and people to serve it, and that was it. No bands, no dance, and it was over about 4:00, and we left, or 4:30, something like that.
Well, that sounds like our Beth and my wedding too.
Well, a little bit, but the ones we've been to lately, which are real productions, it's not like that at all.
It lasted 61 years so far.
Yeah, so far, so
pretty good.
Can't complain.
All right, thank you.
Now let's get out of here.